Good afternoon, everyone. We would like to welcome you to our podcast of 2024 for Delta Theta Delta Sorority Incorporated. Today, we will have our own soror, Katherine Cutler, on today, discussing her new profound book, Discovering Katherine, which is a book that is on domestic violence in the community. I'm going to let Kathy introduce herself right quick before we get started.
Hello, everyone. I am Catherine Cutler. I am here to discuss my book, which is called Discovering Katherine. Every letter in my name represents a part of domestic violence. I'm here to bring awareness by shedding my journey, that what I went through, as well as other people's that I know that went through domestic violence as well.
Okay. So, and also, we have some of our sorors on as well. So it will also be me and Erica Soror Erica, doing the questions and talking with our sister, our Soror Kathy. Um, One of the first things to get started, um, Kathy, what brought you to write about your experience with domestic violence?
Well, it was in the workings. Um, Back in 2016, I lost a family member to domestic violence. And at that time frame, I thought I was prepared to speak about it. I lost a cousin with two of her kids, and one of her kids survived. Her third child survived. And I began talking about it at that time, but I felt like it wasn't my time. So I just prayed on it and prayed on it. And now I feel like it's my time. I feel like God has let me to share it and to really go forward with trying to help as well.
Okay. Um, would you say like with domestic violence within our community, do you think it happens like on a regular basis or it's just, here and there? Like how do you feel like it happens like within our community today?
In our community today, domestic violence is happening. Someone's getting beat now. Let if we really want to be honest, you have women who's probably getting beat on, and men who's probably getting beat on as we speak. It's worse, I believe, because a lot of people don't understand the phases and the steps that it goes through, and some think it's love, some think is because they being verbally abused that it's okay because they might be lashing back at them as well, but not knowing that it's pulling their self-esteem. So it like I said, domestic violence goes on every day. There's someone dying, someone's probably getting rescued right now, but there's really, for me, I feel there's really no outlet. Even if you was to call the cops, it's like steps that you have to take to be protected, and you really are not protected.
Right. I know I heard you speak a little bit on like men with domestic violence. I just know from working in healthcare, some of the things that come about, it's like a lot of times, people frown upon, oh, a man can't be abused. And that's not necessarily true because men do get abused, but it's, people frown upon that, which is kind of like, men do get abused. Like they actually get abused by other men or they get abused by other women, and you see that frequently just as much as you see women getting abused by, men as well. So one of the other questions I have, with domestic violence, like when you wrote your book, you were saying like people that you know around, like were they easy to come, forth to say, hey, I'm being abused, or it's something that you actually sit down with that person and just kind of figure it out or have a conversation with them, they get to saying things like, okay, well, this is happening to me.
Well, a lot of women and a lot of men will not talk about it. They feel that, well, let's go back a little. You have a lot of people when you're going through domestic violence who will not talk about it because of you get the, if that was me, I wouldn't do this. Or you get the, I wouldn't tolerate that. So, you don't have a lot of people that want to come out and talk to people because they look at how the family member might come at them. Or you even got family member that, even if they say it, will say to them, oh, he's a good provider, you need to be with him, what are you doing? Or they'll try to flip it and blame it on on the person who's being abused. um so it's really rare. And I mean, the way that I've learned about a lot of people is just by talking to them. And they'll say, I'm just going to say, for instance, I was at a book fair in Mississippi, and one woman came up to me and she said she dealt with domestic violence for 10 years and she never told anybody. I was the first person she ever told.
Oh wow. Oh wow. You know, like in situations like that, what, like the person comes to you, like you said, you were on your book signing. Like, what do you do? Do you notify anyone, or do you just like comfort? Like, do you like what measures of comfort would you give them, or like, advice would you give them?
Well, what measure of comfort you give them is you let them know you understand what they're going through, especially if you've gone through it. So my goal is to really put it out there because, again, you can go to most women would run away and go to a shelter, and half of these shelters, there's the social workers and people who work there, they're not going through domestic violence, so they don't understand. So my goal is, because I've been through it, I can understand it and I can relate to it. So my goal is to let them know that I understand what you're going through. I know, like, if you haven't been through it, you really can't talk about it. So because I've been through it, I understand it, I can feel them, and I can relate to what they're going through. So I'm able to give them that guidance and show them that, hey, it's a way out. You don't have to be there. I know your self-esteem is taken away from you. I know you feel low. I know you feel like you're not pretty anymore, because that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you don't understand it, you don't know how, you can't relate to it. So my goal is to build my recovery house, which is a safe haven throughout the United States, is what I'm going for. To have a safe haven to where on my website you can contact me personally and I can guide you, walk you through. I'm trying to partnership with different hotels where they have a safe haven to an outlet to where they can get to. And then, from there we can talk and figure out what's your next steps. Because again, you can run to the cops, but most of the time, a cop is not coming unless they're a certain amount of feet away from you. And by then, you and your kids could be dead.
That's true. That is so true. I'm gonna let Erica take it over now. She has a couple questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erica. I am a survivor of domestic violence as well as other forms of abuse. So, my question is, for those who may not know, Catherine, what classifies abuse as domestic abuse and what separates that from other kinds of abuse?
Well, in my book, it breaks it down from verbal, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, financial. So I broke it down to every aspect of abuse that you can witness, because it starts from verbal. Um, Verbal abuse is basically them belittling you, making you feel low, making you feel like you're not pretty or nobody wants you. Then, they turn it on to gaslighting you as well, to make them feel like they're the only one for you. Your family don't want you. So it goes, if you read my book, it will go deep and it will break it down. So um and then like in the end of my book, it gives you my personal journey of a little part of what I went through. I didn't give a whole scenario because it's not about me. The book is more so as the help. But again, I want people to know that I understand. So again, in the book, it goes to the financial too, because once they get you verbally, then they get in you mentally. And once they can break you mentally, they got you emotionally. And once they break you down emotionally, they have you 100%. Like, you feel like, even if after you're getting beat on or whatever, and when you walk away and come back and you got something going on, they make it feel like they're the only one there for you.
Okay. Erica, you had anything else? Erica, can you hear me?
Say that
I,
again.
I said, did you have anything else?
No, basically, I feel like what she's saying, like the answers are in the book, and domestic violence pretty much is an umbrella term for all the abuse. Because if you've been a victim of abuse, like a relationship or romantic abuse, then usually you deal with all the other types of abuse as well. So I think she answered the question by saying that all the abuse falls under domestic violence.
Hmm.
Mhm. I'm going to open up. Does anyone else have any questions for Kathy before we go any further? 'Cause I have a couple more, but anybody else have any more questions? Anybody? Y'all can come off mute. Open up. Anybody? Nobody have any questions? Okay,
I
so
do. This is,
okay.
can you hear me? I'm sorry. This
Uh-huh.
is
Mhm.
Mary Ann Stinson. Um, Kathy, when you came through your trials and your tribulations, what was it that gave you the strength to keep moving forward and write your book?
Um, well, I'm a firm believer of God. That's one. Um, I believe that, if you move according to Him, everything works itself out. So my belief is just to pray, and then back then I didn't have any support, so it was just me really coming out of it and having the strength to know that it's not worth it, that that I'm better than that, that there's more for me, God has more for me. So it's just basically you believing into yourself and able to step across that threshold and do it. It wasn't easy. It's not, I will never tell anybody it's easy once you leave, because my situation, I was shot at. A friend of mine got shot as well. But you know, you still have to take a stand. And the person and my abuser decided to take it to trial. So, I had to take a stand, not just for me, but for anybody else that he might get involved with, to let them know that it's not you're not going to get away with it. You got away with it one time, you're not going to get away with it again. So,
Okay.
it's basically believing in God and just, having that strength. You got to have that strength to want to get out of something like that and knowing that it's better. You're better than that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Erica.
I have a question. For abuse victims who have not found their strength and courage to get out of their situation, what is your advice for them while they are still in the situation preparing to leave?
Well, my advice to them is to, well, one thing I want to be is an outlet for them, to give them that strength to leave and give them that guidance. So, I have it open up on my website where I will be trying to do weekly conversations with people. Because it's very hard for, if you're in abuse, it's very hard for you to want to talk to somebody and open up, um, because you're afraid that your abuser might find out. So, it's just basically trying to find an outlet where they have a secret place to come to. So that's one of my goals, is to get out there and to let them know that, hey, listen, this is a secret place you can come to, where we can have a personal chat, and I could walk you through how to walk away and secure and be safe.
Okay. Now, when you were saying the different types of abuse, like how, like if a person doesn't really know that they're in a domestic violence situation, how do they differentiate the different, what kind of, that they're being actually abused? Because I do know there, like I said, in the field, like I work in healthcare, a lot of times, some women, they don't understand that. Okay, they think that in order to be abused, it has to be a physical abuse, not, mentally or, sexually or whatever it may be. Like, how can you, sit down and talk with them and be like, okay, do you understand that this is mental abuse, or this is verbal abuse? This is not physical, but it's actually, your partner is actually verbally abusing you. How do
Okay.
you sit down
Okay.
with a person like that and explain?
So that's the reason why I push in my book, because in my book, it does explain that. In the book, it breaks it down, it gives scenarios, it gives you, um it flips it even for a man, how a man can be abused and not realize that he's being abused. So in my book, it breaks it down step by step in each category. So that's the goal of pushing the book and getting the book out there, so people can have a something to go back to and be like, okay, wait a minute, in her book, hey, this, I might be really going through this. Let me kind of, let me reach out to her and kind of explain the situation, and maybe she can help me differentiate whether this is really what I'm going through. So again, the book is not personally about me. The book is bringing awareness and breaking it down and giving them scenarios to how you are being abused.
Okay. Because I know, like I said, there are people like they don't understand. Like, okay, we do have other types of abuse, and they're
Mhm.
like, oh, he's or she's fine. That's not what they mean. Yes, like if they're constantly doing it to you, that is a type of abuse. And I know, like for those that couldn't get on with us streaming but are watching us live, like, can you explain to them what a safe house is?
A safe house is somewhere where you could pack up your kids, your family, and you could come and you can get the counseling, you can get the advice, you can get the love, you can get to where you can get your self-esteem back, and you can learn how to stand on your own and start all over without being afraid.
Okay. And also, like when you say, you're working with hotels and things, you know, with individuals that are, that are in a domestic violence situation, you know, how does that help them? And, what other things, is out there to help them to get out of the situation that they're in so that they can better themselves? Like, what things that, come with that?
Well, and every state has a shelters, have a women's shelters. Um, they have, it's you know, you have to Google it. In my book, it does give a lot of resources, places that they can go, where they can reach out to. Again, I am open to anyone who's reaching out to me because once again, I understand most shelters and places like that. If the counselor never been through it, again, they don't know how to direct you. They don't know what you're going through. They actually don't know. So my goal is being that outlet to let them know I understand. I know what you're going through. I've been there. I've done that. But again, my book does give a lot of resources, a lot of directions that they can go to. Again, they can Google their own directions from their state, places that they can go to for the help and assistance. But again, I found out a lot of women, when they do Google and they go to these places, they don't feel safe, or they don't feel like anyone understands them, or anyone really understand what they've been through or what they're going through. It's just like they're just a body there.
Okay. All right. All right. So, Erica, I'm going to let Erica go with her questions next. She's going to start again. Can you hear us, Erica? Oh,
Yeah, so I just had one last question. It was just, what is your advice or support for survivors?
Well, my advice for survivors is, if you came out of it, that means you have come through something that's so traumatic that you can conquer anything in the world. And that, don't allow yourself to go back and back there. Um, for me, my main thing is, in a relationship, if the man raised his hand wrong, it's over with. It's immediate. I walk away. I'm not going to stick around, and I'm not going to wait to see what the outcome is. So is basically, if you've been through it, you have to set your own boundaries. You have to know what you're going to do and what you're not going to take anymore, what you're going to tolerate anymore. Because any woman or any man is better than being beaten on or verbally abused. Everybody, when you say domestic violence, is always the physical they think about. They don't think about the other aspects that comes with it. So my advice to any woman who's been through it, if you got out of it, you're strong. You accomplished something that a lot of women couldn't get out. And I say that because I witnessed my cousin and her kids being murdered behind it. So if she had I don't want to cry. If she had the assistance, or if, at that time frame, I knew I could have walked her through it, and I could have got her and her kids out of it safely.
yeah, that is true. Like, that is so true because I have a family member that it happened to. You know, when you see the signs and they don't see the signs, and you try to help them and prevent them from, things getting worse, but they keep running towards that person, and it's not, it's only so much you can do. But then when it happens, it's like, oh my God, and then say for instance, like sometimes it happens when it happens to that person and their kids see it, it turns around and then it happens again to the children, and it's like a ripple effect. Like how do you prevent that from happening to the next child? Because the child saw their mother, it happened to their mother, and it turns around and happens to one of their siblings. That's
Mhm.
kind of like it's a hard situation to deal with, and you try to prevent things from happening, but you know things happen. And like I said, when you see the signs, I feel like people should speak up and say something, whether or not, the person is, but speak up and say something, because I always try to look out for people, because a lot of times, like I said before, they don't recognize, they just see, okay, well, it's not physical. It's, oh, they're just playing with me. And a lot of times that person not playing with you. It starts out as like you think they're playing with you. And then later on, you could be saying something in the mainstream before you get out there, they're hitting you and going on like that, and then or they're dragging you across the floor. Better much, it could be, if their mental status is not well, they can, 1 minute they're laughing, and next minute they're pointing a gun at you, then shot you. So I mean, it's very serious. Like, don't take it lightly, but don't take it, like lightly. Oh, they're just playing. No, they're never playing. Like, if they're never playing, and I feel like today, with today's generation, they take a lot of things not as serious as like the older generations do,
Mhm.
and it a lot. Like I said, working in healthcare, I see it a lot. Young people come in and like you want to be like, baby, this is verbal abuse or this is mental abuse, even whether it's on a parent or a child. This is mental abuse. Like, how have you been going, all this time like this, doing this? Like, no, like this is not right. Even with my own children, I'll be like, this is no, that's not healthy. You know what I'm saying? Try to show them healthy relationships and healthy things, because that's how you want to be. If you see this, I need you to walk away. If not, run away. You know what I mean? But as we see things, and a lot of times we just like, oh, that's not. And then when it happens to you, well, nobody said anything to me, but it happened to somebody, you just let it go. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. I just
Well,
with that, I
well,
just think.
sometimes it's all about how you approach them too.
Mhm.
It's all about your approach with people. Sometimes you can't just go up to them and be like, "Well, I know you're going through." A lot of people come off too hard, and when you come off too hard to a person, that makes them back away. That makes them that don't want to open up, don't want to release that, because then they'll feel that what they're going to get is "I told you so," or the if it was me, I wouldn't let that happen. So it's all about the way that you approach.
Right.
um, so if you do see someone, or are you aware of someone going through that, and I'm let me give an instance for me. um, One of my friends that I was working with, a close friend that I was working with, um, she must have noticed something was wrong with me. And when the guy called me one day and we was going to the train station, she took my phone and she told him that I was unavailable. So that was her way of being my support. And when she did that, I just looked at her and said, "Well, why you do that?" And she said, "Because I know you're going through something, and I'm not going to allow you to stand alone." So that gave me the sense of like, wow, somebody's actually watching and noticing that I'm really going through something, and they care enough to stand up to him. So when she stood up to him, then I knew I could stand up to him. So sometimes it's a way of your approach to people, how you talk to them, because again, being abused verbally, mentally, sexually, emotionally, any way of abuse, we feel ashamed. You feel ashamed about it. You don't want no one to know, because you don't want anyone to look at you differently, especially if people know that you're um an outspoken person. You're a you just have this persona about yourself that you don't want to hear that I told you so, or you shouldn't do that. So it's really all about the approach. It's about gradually, not letting them know that but kind of just like, well, I'm here for you if you need to talk. um if you want to just get out and have some drinks or something one day, and I can tell that you're going through something, but you have to be willing to talk. So, approaching them in a very delicate manner, where they feel like, okay, this person really have my best interest in heart, that they're really going to be there for me, then they will come around and open up.
Okay. So we had a question from someone online and talking about, so how do you know if you're being abused?
Well, again, okay, so let me say this. You would know you're being abused is when you start feeling low about yourself. If you came into a relationship confident, knowing who you are, um, and you start feeling low about yourself in that relationship, you start feeling like, you're being pulled between your family and him or her, you're being abused. When you really start feeling that your world is only wrapped around that individual, you're being abused. That's how you know. Because anybody who's going to be with you is going to allow you to be with your family. It's going to allow you to be you when you walked in that relationship.
And one of the other questions was, do you think the authorities really are on your side when it comes to domestic violence?
Now, I don't want no authorities listening, looking at this.
I'm gonna say yes and no. Yes
I'm
and
going to
no.
say, I'm going to say, I'm with Erica. You have you yes and no, because you have some. Now you have some police women or men that have been through it, so they can relate to you. But then you have some that just like, okay, well, if he comes 500 feet towards you, call the cops. Well, I could be dead by the time
Exactly.
I call y'all and y'all get here. So it's a real toughy situation when it comes to that. It's
Speaking
real.
on my own experience, I think it also depends on your location, the state that you're in, where they will enforce restraining orders and peace orders. Even the police will actually come out and arrest them. I think it kind of depends. From my personal experience, PG County is really good with domestic calls. Where I live at now, not so much, but most of the time he would abuse me and his mom, and he would be gone before the police got there. And so it's kind of like, well, what do you do now? Because he's gone, the attack is gone. There's no use for the police. You're literally running back and forth to just add on charges to probably prolong the stay away order or whatever the case may be. But I've actually had a stay away order and been abused with a stay away order.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
yeah, I would say the police is yes and no. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. I would advise people to protect themselves, protect their own home, security systems, weapons or whatever you need to in the meantime until police get there. Some of them do not respect authority at
At
all,
all.
and it actually incites more violence.
Yeah. It,
So
it, it roused it actually roused them up.
yeah.
Them up. But then you have the ones who, even if they would come back and plead with the woman not to press charges. So it all depends. Again, it really do depends on the individual. I know in North Carolina they are very strict with domestic violence. If they get called out in North Carolina, if they get called out on any domestic violence, somebody's going to jail. They don't care which one.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody going to jail.
Same with PG County.
Certain states are really in tune now because they see how bad it has gotten. But then you still have, it all depends on the officers too. You can have an officer to come out who's going to go that extra yard, who's going to ask. For my instance, my officer asked, do I know where he lives at? Do I know where he could be at? Can I call him? Will he answer the phone? So that's how I found out where he was at, because I called him, and then I heard his child in the background, and I automatically knew he was at his baby mama house. So that's how I got him. So it all depends on the officer as well, how caring they are with you. Um, but my goal is next year I will be doing, and I'm going to try to do it in every state. Is set up something where we can have a general conversation. I will be having an RN on deck. I will be having a counselor on deck. I will be having a self defense instructor as well. And basically what I want to do is kind of just bring awareness. If you are in an abusive relationship, the RN can tell you how to, mandate your wounds. um, I'm going to have a self-defense person there that will teach you self-defense, how to, maybe, not injure the person or kill the person, but how to get him off of you where you're able to get out and get help, you know, or give you enough time to where you can call the cops while you got them pinned down until they come. So my goal is really to bring awareness to really help. Um, you know, I just feel like now is the time. And again, I say I don't move unless God tell me to move. And I just think that then now is the time to do it.
I will say this to add to the sheriff, the police thing, county I live in, just speaking with some of the officers, they are afraid when they get a call about domestic violence. They are sometimes afraid to go out to the home because I know frequently in my county where I live at, they have a lot of where it ends up some either both people are dead or one somebody's dead, and they don't want to be caught in the crossfire because they value their life just as much as anybody else. That was the conversation I had with a couple officers, and they was just like, it's difficult because you're going out there, but you also don't want anybody to get hurt or yourself getting hurt. So they're kind of sometimes they be on the fence as well, and they also, if it's like a situation, like man on woman, I always recommend have a concealed, get your concealed weapon permit. Always, Maryland's one of those states now where you can carry. Well, in this county that I live in, you can carry as long as you have a concealed weapon license, and I say that to anybody. Always had to be able to protect yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times before he come back over there again, he'll think twice. Knowing that you could protect yourself. A coward is a coward. If he value his life, stay away from me. You know what I'm saying? Just know that okay, you might got hands, but I got these. Okay, just I was raised down south. Like, yeah, no, put your hand on me, be prepared. What's coming next? Like, don't don't do that. But just also working in the system where you have people coming where they'll come in on a domestic charge on a Friday, by Monday they gone home, Sunday they gone home, and they back out on the streets doing it again, and so that's why a lot of times the police, a lot of officers, respectful officers, will tell you, hey, look, to protect yourself, do XYZ.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this to protect yourself. If they really serious about, and they see, because a lot of times they see a lot, trust me, they see this all the time.
Mhm.
Like probably 50% of their calls when they're coming out, this is what it is, where, and I know y'all probably seen in the news where in Virginia, the guy, they can't find a body, but wife is gone, and they don't know, what I'm saying, whether he killed her, he put her somewhere or what, but she's gone, you know, and that's lately they're trying to figure out. And my thing is if, you're in a situation like that where you don't want to be with that individual anymore, let them go.
Mm.
It's just let them go. Don't all of that, trying to bury them in the backyard. That's crazy, just crazy. But the police see it a lot, and they, if you do have a good officer, I feel like they do try to guide you in the right direction. And one of the other questions is like, I guess gaslighting. How did she put it? She said, describe gaslighting.
Well, gaslighting is basically they flipping it back onto you, and they're making you feel like like you're doing it to them. So it's a mental game that they play. It is really trying to get into your mental.
Hmm. Okay.
Can I
Then
piggyback
another
on?
question.
I'm
Hmm.
sorry, I apologize. Can I piggyback on what Kathy just said? And this
Uh-huh.
is something that I feel too. The question that was asked earlier, and it's coming back in reference to what Kat just said. A person asked, "How do you know you're being abused?" One thing that you can do is don't be in denial, because the person, whether male or female, they're in control. And it's also in her book. They control you, but you don't really think that. But then, as she's mentioned earlier, they start keeping you away from your family and things that you like to do. Unfortunately, a lot of people, once they're being controlled, again, they lose their own image, who they are. So they become in denial, And even though they can see the things that are happening, they deny that. Even when someone else says something to them, they'll deny, oh, he just, he just loves me or she loves me. But do you really know what love is? Love does not beat you. Love does not diminish your spirit. And unfortunately, a person, when they control you, you lose all of that. You lose your whole mental awareness of what you should be able to do and how you should live or be able to live.
Yes, love definitely will not have you deplenishing your finances and
Mm-hmm.
second guessing yourself and questioning your self esteem and playing mind games. And I know some people who are abused and don't realize that they're being abused. If someone tells you they don't like what you're wearing or they prefer your hair to be this way, it's small, subtle things like, it's small things that lead up to bigger things, but usually it doesn't feel good.
Or they don't like your friends, your company you keep. They
Yeah.
don't like your sister because they feel your sister gets around. They don't like your mother because it. They will make every excuse to make you feel like they're all you need. So
Right.
that's a part of gaslighting. That's a part of isolating you from everybody that you ever had in your life.
Okay.
Now, March
Okay.
5th, I think believe March 5th, if everybody's free in Charleston, South Carolina, we one of my girlfriends is doing a Million Women's March, and I will be a guest speaker out in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
All right. That's good to know. All right. Anybody else got any other questions before we go
And
forward
now
with
let
any?
me say this. I also are working with the chiefs of police to
Mhm.
be able to give domestic violence women and men my website where they can have someone to talk to and help them through it. So me and my team is actually working with the United States Chiefs of Police to be an outlet as well.
Okay.
I don't have a question, but I would like to say to Kathy, thank you. And I'm really proud of you for stepping out and stepping out on faith to help others who's been in the situation and are currently going through it. And, with your book, you're helping to save someone's lives. So I really commend you on what you've done. And for those who's been in those situations, I commend you for your strength and I commend you for your fortitude not to stay in those situations. So keep your head up, keep going strong, and help another sister or brother that may be going through it. Keep it up. Be a spokesperson. Your life mattered, so does theirs.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Like, you bring so much light to the situation. Because, like I said, just like me working in healthcare, a lot of times working in social work, you see it and you got to know how to, how do you approach that person? Are they approachable person? Is the person with them that's doing it? You bring a lot of light to it, to how to navigate through in order to help that person. A lot of times in my mind, it'd be like, do that person really want my help? Or do they, or should I say something to somebody else that can help them? That's the question that be in my mind, a lot of times, because just depending on how what's that, I don't know exactly what that person is going through, you know what I mean? But anybody got any other questions or any other things that y'all want to shed light on for domestic violence?
Sometimes I'm going to say this. Sometimes you can just give a person a hug.
All
You
right.
can just give a person a hug, and you will see how they will release that, and that will tell you that will kind of give you a sense of what they're going through because all they're looking for is someone to actually really love them and be in their corner. And sometimes it just takes a stranger to just give them a hug, and you can find out so much about what they're going through.
Right. That's so true. I have one other question. This is my last question. A person that's going through a domestic issue, at times mental status does change. It changes them because depending on how abusive the situation is.
Mhm.
Do you think sometimes when you evaluate them or trying to help them that some things should be kept from them because they may use it instead of helping them, they may use it into, to do things that are not justifiable.
Ooh, good question. I'm gonna say, I mean, you have to let it out there. At the end of the day, if it's to help them, you have to let it out there. We can't control their behavior, but what we can do is just put it out there and help them as much as we can. Because if a person's gonna flip, they're gonna flip.
Right.
If a person had enough, they had enough. But you have to weigh your options with that too when you're giving them that type of advice, is to really explain and let them know, like, hey, it's no need to try to take it in your own hands, because this is what can happen. But there are other ways that you can, walk away. Me personally, I let everyone know that it's not easy. I'm very forthcoming, and I'm very transparent. It never is easy when to walk away. It's going to get tough. It's going to get hard. You're going to get the threats. You're going to get the stalking, but you have to be strong enough to stand through, because eventually it will stop.
Okay. Okay.
So being transparent is the best thing you can do, because if not, you're giving them false hope.
Right. Mm-hmm. Anybody else got any more questions? Anything? Erica?
No, all my questions pretty much have been answered. But yes, to piggyback off what Mary Ann said, Catherine, I appreciate you bringing awareness to the situation. And there are a lot of people who don't know how to come forward or are too afraid to come forward. And at least reading the book, they can identify that, yes, I am being abused, and these are some options that I can take to make it through my situation. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes. So nobody got any more
You're
questions?
welcome.
Nobody got any more questions? So we would like to thank you for actually coming in and doing a Q&A with us, Soror Kathy. Um, and if you all have not got Catherine's book, please do so. It is Discovering Katherine, and it is out. I believe it is out on Amazon. Correct, Kathy?
Yes, on Amazon and my website.
And yes, and Miss Marianne was just holding it up for those that can see it. She was holding up. If you haven't, like I said, and also I believe we have a link where you can go directly to it. I will put it up on our
Yes.
Facebook page and our Instagram page with the link to take you directly to it. So for those that are interested in purchasing it, okay, ladies. So we thank you, Kathy, again,
Thank
and
y'all so much for
and
having me.
everyone, y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
You
And I
all
hope
as well.
it helps for everybody that, that has someone or knows someone that to help someone out. Okay. Somebody, I think one more question. Erica.
That was just me making the comment. I'm so happy to be a survivor.
Hey, look, I'm
Yeah,
so like
we sticking
about
in the
like
fight.
yeah. So we will be back in 2 more weeks with a different topic, y'all. Me and Erica. If y'all have any topics, feel free to send us a message on Facebook or Instagram. Okay. Y'all enjoy y'all day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Have a good Sunday.
You too. Bye bye.